So, I had an interesting week. The interview plan for this episode, well, it didn't work out. And that meant I was without a guest and a story to share. And I literally had a matter of days to find one. And one that was still a great fit for the show. So yeah, I was having a moment. But I got over that and I sent out the bat signal to my network. I said, who do you know that's awesome and fits my criteria? Also remember, I interview everyone in person. So this time I was looking for someone local to California and hopefully the San Francisco Bay Area, because I didn't have time to cross the country. Well, my people came through. And now with the story lined up, I just needed to make it happen. This is My Big Story, and I'm Christopher Swan. Yes. Oh, hey there. So I found Wendi Gilbert, and I just arrived here at her home in San Anselmo, just north of San Francisco. Wendi founded the KindnessEvolution. It's a young nonprofit with an important mission. And as I started to understand Wendi's story, I really liked how Wendi's thinking about collaboration in big ways and how her story is full of work in progress and truth. Okay. I kind of don't feel like working today. So I think we're good to go. Do you have any questions before we jump into stuff?
I have none.
Okay. You're like I'm an open book. Ask me anything. Ask me anything. So I want to jump in with kind of the beginning. I want to talk about the Kindness Evolution. What is it? And then how is it different than other kindness organizations that I might see online?
Yeah. Well, so we're the aggregator of everything kind. So after 5 years of surveying the landscape of kindness in our nation, I started to compile all that information. So what we're here to do is shout out and celebrate and unite the whole kindness community. And the only way that's going to happen is with radical collaboration. And so that's a little bit of what the Kindness Evolution is a container for what's possible collaborating in our nation.
How do you define kindness? Like, what does it mean to only connect kindness versus so many other feel-good or good intention efforts?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we went to see a philanthropist and we talked about kindness. And he was saying, it's soft. I don't get it. And he actually said, he was sitting next to a travel companion and her collar was up and he put her collar down and she said, thank you. And he said, is that what you're talking about? And I said, absolutely. He said, I don't get it. Kinder for what? Like what happens if you're a kinder world? What value is it?
Yeah.
And so we've had to be searching for that answer. And I can think of like maybe 3 things that we can point at. So if you walk into a lunchroom and no one's sitting alone, now that's kindness that you can actually say through it, this is an outcome. Mm-hmm. People standing up for bullying, that is an outcome. So what is kindness? It's interesting because compassion, generosity, that's kindness in action. But I keep on pulling it back and back and back of what is it that kindness is so important to me and that I feel really would make a difference. And ultimately, I think it's respect for the humanity. That if you respect the person in front of you, that they are human just like you are, the tendency to be kind is so much more.
You mentioned a couple of things that I want to dig into a little bit more to make sure I understand it. You talked about like results and you talked about like actions. So without defining kindness as much, is it about those actions as well? Like you're working with organizations that are taking these sorts of actions and it's based within kindness. So you're bridging those all together. So it's all sorts of different actions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because Charter for Compassion has compassion games, and Random Acts of Kindness has curriculum. And so it's the landscape of who's doing what. And so there's a calendar function in a new database that we're going to be doing. And the calendar is put in every day that you're celebrating. And so they're not competing with one another. In fact, if you just want to be kind and generous, celebrate every single day. Pay It Forward Day, World Kindness Day, Hug It Forward. So there's even though all of us are doing our different ways of reaching people, some people are doing assemblies, some people are doing, Shirley Zink had 4,000 middle school kids in her kindness symposium. So people that are interested in the middle school, now all of a sudden they can be in contact with each other. What works, what doesn't work. So the collaboration is how can we also keep our unique assets?
Oh, I didn't think of it that way. Yeah, because I always think of it as the unity of the how do we synergize, but it's also about we're still doing very unique, different things.
Yes. And those things are branded, and they are their value. And it's a new paradigm. How do you share? That was part of the Kindness Collective. How can we let go of me and mine for a period of time where we're looking at the challenge of that for the greater good?
Why now should we be unifying?
And it's the horrendous state of our nation. I mean, it is. It's the shootings. It's the increase of teenage suicide. We had one person at the Kindness Collective, her son, Peyton, 13 years old, committed suicide because of bullying. It's just it's not acceptable. There's a level of losing our respect for each other's humanity that is really showing up, with discrimination, with judgment, and so more than ever, and we're seeing our youth are stepping up, and so that's really where we need to focus. And part of the challenge of that weekend was, and how do we give our youth the tools they need to be the bold, kind leaders of tomorrow? And so it's in our politics for sure, but it's also in companies and school boards. And so more than ever, something needs to change.
Yeah.
And it feels like kindness may not be the answer, but it's sure a good one to start with.
Because it can be small. It can be like this small, like, random acts of kindness. It could be little things, but it can be really big things. And so it's almost like the DNA to the actions and the results that will get us there, or the path.
Yeah. We talk about it as seeding our youth when they're 5 years old up to college, and then college is a whole other. But that each one gets to mentor the one before because it is a unified kindness curriculum. And I have the map of it, of the machine that we did this weekend at the Kindness Collective, where these ideas are possible. It's a huge undertaking, but let's make sure, besides math and reading, that there's an emphasis on service and kindness, and we need that seeded from the bottom up.
So does KindnessEvolution help? That's like a tangible piece of this. You're working with all of these organizations to be able to seed it at the youth level and as part of our DNA, if you will. Like, is that kind of your role, is to help unify that together to make it happen? Yes,
because it's connecting all of the different organizations and people that are going to allow for the impact that we're looking for.
Yeah.
Because all of those different silos, they're beautiful, what people are doing. But if we really want to change the culture in different aspects of our society, if we want to change the culture, it's this positive shift that allows people to have it in their perspective, have it on their radar screen, and make a difference.
Yeah.
So those 70 organizations, the reach is 24 million people. So what if we blast out a unified initiative? And we don't know what that is yet, but that's why we're exploring. So KindnessEvolution is the laboratory to be asking the hard questions and doing the work in order to create the systems and the holding that we can actually do this.
So you mentioned part of it when you started, with your daughter and, Make a Difference Day and kind of where that started to percolate. I also know that you're you haven't always been in this sort of nonprofit space of building your own thing. I mean, you've done a lot of different stuff, and you've had this really fascinating background of careers. But how did you make the shift from just doing all these amazing for-profit work and then saying, ta-da, I need to start this nonprofit and spread kindness around the world? Like how did that happen?
Yeah, it definitely did not happen like that.
This is where big, cool music comes in. Ta-da, you did it this way.
So I produced TV commercials for 20 years and then was into marketing and communications and production and really long hours, and I had small kids. And so I did a 7-year chapter with Philip Moffat, who used to be the editor-in-chief of Esquire magazine and now is a Buddhist meditation teacher. And he has a nonprofit called Life Balance Institute. And he hired me to manage his institute and manage his life. And it was an incredible chapter. So that was kind of Buddhist and compassion, but I didn't really have a practice before then. But it was fabulous. And then there was a couple of jobs, and there was one time where I was in between jobs, and Craigslist was a black hole, and it was not a great period. And I woke up one day, and seriously, I have no idea, but I said, the only thing I can think of to do is to rally 1 million people to do an act of kindness on Make a Difference Day, which was really crazy. And so I invested, built a website, got the whole town on board. We had a parade. This is the 2,000 pictures that you can see of pledges of acts of kindness. So our entire district did it. And we had a parade down Main Street, and we decorated Imagination Park, which has Yoda. And there was a moment where it was a deep, satisfying moment where I was looking at the park in the 2000, and people were walking around like it was a walking museum. And someone was saying, look at this one, look at this one.
Wow.
And there was some that were so poignant of, I will make a difference by calling my father, it's been a long time. Or some of them were just so precious. And I thought, this is really repeatable. This is very repeatable. And what would it be like if the entire nation was connected through these ribbons? That's an idea of unifying. So there was something about that moment. But honestly, it was 2 years ago, there was a horoscope that said, envision what you have a vision for. What would it feel like at the end? And I keep journals, and they're kind of multimedia journals of things stuck in there. And I took pen to paper, and I said, Kindness Collective, what's possible when people with the same mission come together? Something is possible.
I mean, that's like so clear.
And what it was for me, and you mentioned curiosity before, but I was recently asked this, and I thought, I was curious. Something is possible. And I looked up synergy, and there was a whole, period of really looking at that. And so, then I committed to it. I had put pen to paper. And I was working part-time, but it was the first time that I said, okay, from 9:30 to 1:30, I work on this. And that just started the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And I was naive because my big vision is, I have a video of it because it's for next year, because it certainly wasn't for this year. When I shared that vision with the Kindness Collective, there was 24 leaders, kindness leaders, that had joined us to look at that challenge question. How can we collaborate for greater good? And I had photocopied the journal. And I said, this is what I had a vision for. And here we are. Very different than one college ambassador from every state in the nation. That's for 2019.
So I want to talk about the collective now, because we've mentioned it a couple times, but we haven't really dived in. Because it's also It was a big moment for you and the kindness evolution. I mean, that was a big piece to pull together. Tell me what it is so everybody understands what actually happened. And you don't have to tell me everybody, but kind of tell me about who participated.
So originally, the 70 folks on that list.
That data that you collected.
Yes,
Yeah.
that research. Who had kindness in their mission statement or compassion or generosity? And the idea was to invite them one by one to say something's possible by getting all together, and would you like to join? And 48 people said absolutely. Wow. And what I said to them was, we will get a leadership care package for you, because we don't want you to have to spend nonprofit dollars to get here. We want to honor you. You are the people on the forefront who are doing this work. And I eventually had to call them to say that hasn't come through quite yet. And 24 people said, we'll be there. And also we wanted the youth represented. So we had 6 inspiring youth or young adult leaders. And all coming together to ask those 2 questions. How might we collaborate for greater good while keeping our unique assets for greater social impact? And what do our youth need to be the bold, kind leaders of tomorrow? And
you spent 2 days working through that.
So, a day and a half of really hard work. Because Think Wrong is they say a radical problem-solving system. They have a unique method called blitzing.
And this is the facilitator, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we had the honor of doing this work in their space. So they donated their space to us.
Wow.
Which was really incredible. And it was in Half Moon Bay, which for the people flying in from Kentucky, they had a really good time. And
it's gorgeous.
It's on Main Street, and there's bed and breakfasts, and it was just wonderful. We had a Saturday night celebration dinner, and it looked over, and you could see the ocean, and just a wonderful place to be. So the blitzing, Kindness Evolution and Think Wrong did a lot of hours to come up with that challenge question. And every word is important. And we really, what's left out and what do we need to be in there? Because that's what we're going to spend the day and a half doing. And so the blitzing are really fast exercises where each team of 5 has 10 feet of wall space of white, and there's lots of stickies. People are down, they're writing the answers to the questions, they're putting them up there, people are looking and sharing, and you're voting with dots. And so we got a lot of work done. We really did. And the youth voice was really important.
I love that you brought them in, because I would imagine you had these senior or very experienced, people in this in these organizations or nonprofit space, and then you had youth that could pull it from a completely different perspective.
Absolutely. In fact, and this is an incredible cherry on the cake, we had a really wonderful youth representative that couldn't come. And I realized that the college age wasn't represented. And so my daughter flew in from Colorado College, and she participated for the weekend. And it was an amazing day. It really was. And looking around that room and seeing her there, and she really acknowledging her mommy for all the hard work. And during high school, she was just a total we know how that goes with parents and high school kids.
Like a normal teenager.
Right.
Yeah.
And she turned around. She went to college and she turned around, and she's just all for me, and you go, mommy, and you go, girl. And people said her voice was really important because she's a film major, feminist gender studies minor, and she really brought to the forefront privilege and inclusivity, and that was really good to hear.
Speaking of youth, you also have a really cool collaboration event coming up with Camp Kindness Day. Could you tell me a little bit more about this?
Yes. And this actually, it's such big news. And I guess because I've been producing the KindnessCollective for 2 years, this is kind of like, back burner news, but it's actually not.
Yeah, it's big.
So I went to an all-girls summer camp from when I was 9 to 16. This was in Maine, and it was the East Coast where, 7-week summer camps are very widely participated in, but not out here so much in California. And so camp is in my blood, and I love camp. And my sister posted a video of what I was doing, And the director of the camp that her kids go to said to her, "Oh my gosh, that's all the camp values. And I'd love to talk to your sister." Fast forward, Kindness Evolution is in collaboration with the American Camp Association, and they are solid. They are a 108-year-old organization. They reach 11 million youth. They have 11,000 members, and those members are Boys Club, Girls Club, YMCA, Girl Scouts. They have over 100,000 college-age counselors. And never before, but now forevermore, July 24th will always be Camp Kindness Day. And Kindness Evolution and American Camp Association, we are collaborating to develop that. We are piloting it this summer. So 3 days ago, Kindness Evolution delivered the activity list that every camp can do because it's simple. And so that's going out to the 11 million. Participate with us July 24th. Celebrate the value of intentional kindness and kindness in action. And the 11 camps that are piloting it, we are in development with them. And here's the thing. ACA had a conference in March. So we flew Think Wrong there, our fabulous facilitation team, and we worked with 11 college-age counselors to say, how might we create Camp Kindness Day activities that are repeatable, that are impactful? And so we're in that process with Think Wrong, the process now with these 11 camps to develop that full day pilot program that will go July 24th.
Oh, 24th.
And I get to go visit my camp and be with my camp on July 24th.
That's almost like full circle for you.
I know.
I mean, that's a wonderful event. I'm excited just to see how it comes out.
I am so excited when I picture my camp and being at the team tree. And I have 3 older sisters, so I just emailed the director to say, what about the 4 messing girls coming back? So it's going to be great.
That's amazing.
Well, follow Twitter. I'm going to be doing the whole thing.
You should live stream some of that, too. That would be fun to see some of the activities in place.
Thank you very much.
I'm here all
that
week.
idea. There you go.
Starting nonprofits can't be easy. I know building a dream can't be easy because I know this. I do this. I'm wondering from where you started to today, what's the reality versus what your expectations were from starting a nonprofit to do this?
So 9 months ago is when I hired Nancy Carroll, who's my partner in this and first kind officer. And so we're 9 months old. Mm-hmm. And I categorize it like that because we got fiscal sponsorship. So to put your paperwork in to become a nonprofit, it can be like 18 months. I mean, I had no idea that it really could be that long. And so we are fiscally sponsored, which means that we have a EIN number and tax deductible and all of that while we wait.
I want to know, was it as easy as you thought it was going to be? Did it work out just like you thought it was going to be? Or is the truth that starting nonprofits and doing all these things, it's messier and harder than you ever thought it was going to be?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the funding makes a difference. You know, to be doing this for free, you know, I'm a 30-year professional. And so I have a certain value. And we have 2 kids in college. And so for me to be spending my time with something also so positive for our world and not be getting paid for it, it's actually, I think, pretty unacceptable. So I had this brilliant idea, which was, since human capital is our most valuable capital, what about people taking people on? So I have this little video, this nonprofit video that says, "Hi, I'm Wendi Gilbert. This is my salary. And who wants to take a stand for the work that I can do in this world? Who will invest in me so that I can keep doing this work?" Great. Okay, Nancy Carroll over here, she's my partner. Her salary is X. I need her with me. One of her philosophies is everyone goes in twos, which I just love. Who's going to, thank you so much. All right, now over here, a bidding war, right? I mean,
and I love that you're linking it to people, not just this organization. It's more about help this person really do the change.
Absolutely.
I love that.
In all my research, so I've been on 45 Skype calls with these kindness leaders from nonprofits, and each one of them has the same story. So Orly Waba from Life Vest Inside, she's been sitting at her parents' dining room table in Brooklyn for 5 years, creating Dance for Kindness, which is in 123 countries and 15,000 people and every year. And she's not getting paid. Like there's something so wrong with the system. And being out here in the Bay, see, I'm about to go on my tirade. Being out here in the Bay Area, there's so much money. And there are so many people that want to do good. And so the fact that it isn't happening down the pipeline to feed people like me who really passionately want to do this work, it's a travesty because it's not working in terms of flow. If that money could just be freed up, a lot of work would get done.
Do you have any words of wisdom about like how, I don't know, what to do or maybe an expectation to have?
Yeah. What I say is you don't need to start your own nonprofit. Join with people who are already doing it so that you can use your life energy to be doing the work that you want to be doing. Because otherwise you're dealing with 501c3 and reports, and there's so much administration that is it really most impactful for you to collaborate and join forces and see if people come to me and say, listen, I'm interested in anti-bullying. Great. There's this organization. So again, by knowing the whole landscape, it's allowing people to have a structure where everyone who's on for the same thing doesn't have to have their own little silo. Because I can point to places in my impact where it lessened because I was doing my sponsorship decks and I was having meetings. And so I can point to 2 places. One is I was on my whiteboard right here. I would write down the next 3 names of the people that I wanted to invite. And every morning it was my schedule. I invited those 3. And the other thing that I did was post on Facebook every single day. And little by little, as I had to do the decks and the stress of not having the money and not having it being funded, little by little, those things which are the connection to the people, they're the things I love, they had to lessen because the funding. Sure. And, that's not what our passion is. Sure. In which case, either have enough money that you can hire someone who does that, or it's really just minimizing the impact that we can have if we're actually just fully going with our passion.
Even through all of that and where you're at today, if you could go back, would you not do any of this?
Oh, God, no. I would do every single little piece of it. Yeah. And I get re-inspired, and I really have gotten really re-inspired in the last.
Here's the thing about the Kindness Evolution. They are less than a year old and have already done a few big things. In fact, since this interview, Wendi shared with me they've already made additional progress with KindnessCollective. 11 million campers have already received suggested activities that will celebrate intentional kindness. And 3 camps will pilot a Camp to Campus program where campers and counselors bring kindness activities back to their school to be celebrated on World Kindness Day, November 13th. So when I was starting to learn about Wendi and the Kindness Evolution, I could see this story of determination and reality. I say reality because it's not easy to start something like this, and it never goes as planned. And it's going to be much tougher than you realize. Wendi and Nancy, well, they're living that. But they're also making changes happen as they find their way. So if you want to change the world, find a way. It really is possible. Just be like Wendi and Nancy. Be persistent and follow your truth. If you want to get involved in the kindness movement, there's a few simple things you can do. First, and of course, go check out the KindnessEvolution.org to find resources, give them a donation, and find out more about Wendi and the team. Again, that's KindnessEvolution.org. Then Wendi offered 2 great ideas anyone can do to add more kindness into the world. First, start your day with intentional kindness by thinking about opportunities that would allow you to be kind. It's really that easy. Then, when faced with a challenge or issue, ask yourself, what's the kind thing to do? And then do it. You'll find photos from my time with Wendi on the episode webpage, as well as episode extras, including info about Think Wrong and a list of the organizations that attended the Kindness Collective. Just head over to mybigstory.show to find it, as well as other episodes. Now, a special thank you goes out to Aaron Hoslick for connecting me with Wendi, or as we used to say, boom. If you want to get social with me and follow along on my adventures, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Oh Hi Christopher. That's Oh Hi Christopher. For more resources and inspiration, you should come sign up to my Be Inspired newsletter at christopherswan.info, and you'll get lots of goodness regularly. If these kind of stories, ideas inspire you to use your power for good, then I'd love it if you shared the show with your friends on your socials. Also, rating the show and writing reviews in iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, well, it really helps these stories get to more people. And finally, the audio magic and editing for this episode is from Podcast Monster. Thanks, Nick. Well, that's it for this week's adventure. I'm Christopher Swan, and this is my big story.